something I've done as a habit, and perhaps you've done the same thing, is pretty much since I was like 10, 12 years old, I just took a huge interest in how things work and why do people do what they do. And over the years, as I've observed and collected data and found trends and all this, I found that it helps sometimes to look at things in a very laser-focused, microscopic way. And other times you have to really zoom out, back up, and look at the big picture. How do all these tiny little data points, how do they formulate into patterns and trends? Now, what I want to look at today is the overall arc of men in general and women in general, as far as the peak times of their life. And you can always find exceptions to the rule. If you look at any Gaussian curve of data, you're going to have about 85, maybe 90% of the data that falls into a major trend. And then you're going to have data on the far left and the far right, which are often called outliers. These are the exceptions to the rule. So we can always find exceptions to the rule, but it pays to look at the trend, the overall trend. Now, when it comes to men and women and how they arc in their overall prime of their life, probably one of the best ways that I've heard it summarized is that men age like wine, getting better through the years, and women tend to age more like milk. I've also heard it put another way: the first half of life belongs to women, and the second half of life belongs to men. And as I look at all the different examples of men and women that I've known over the decades, I have to say this trend, this assessment is very true. We as men start out usually emancipated at age 18, and we're expected to go out and make something of ourselves in the world. We need to go out there and find a way to support ourselves. That might be going through formal education in college to get that degree to be qualified for the profession later. It could be attending a vocational school to learn a specific trade. It could be going into the military to get some life principles into you and come out and take on this task with some purpose. But if you look at the overall big picture, most men between 18 and 35 are in this phase of getting their skills together, getting their first jobs. They may migrate through 2 or 3 different professions or jobs. And that period leading up to about age 35 is spent improving our ability to earn money, getting in the experience, and hopefully investing it or at least saving it as we move along. And as the years move forward, hopefully our skills become more polished and we can expect a higher salary or pay for our skill set. Now, from age 35 to say 50, most men by this time are married, they're making good money, and the money is being absorbed to provide everything necessary for a family and a wife. And then when you get to the third phase of a man's arc in life, let's just call that 55 and older, some men will have invested wisely and they'll have quite a fortune to themselves. Other men will have a good pension from their job in addition to the pension that they would get from their country that they live in. Now, yes, you have the outliers, the guys who never really pursued a profession. They just won the lottery when they were 28 years old and been living on that ever since. But there's very few of those. And then you have the guys who just never got their act together. They're now 55 or 60. They have no profession, no way of really earning money, and other than some kind of a Social Security pension, really don't have anything to look forward to for retirement. So what can we assess from this arc is that in general, a man's value or a man's life tends to go upward. As time moves forward, men are valued on their ability to be a provider and protector in the eyes of women. And as time moves forward, most of us get better at what we do. We gain experience dealing with business. And so as the years move forward, our value just keeps going up and up and up and up. Again, unless you're one of the outliers who unfortunately did not plan well and don't have much to show for it at the end of your life. Some people use a term called SMV, sexual market value. His sexual market value in the eyes of women goes up as the years move forward. So now let's look at women, again, in general, same way as we did with the men. Now, men are not attracted to women based on their ability to be a provider or a wage earner. That's not our first primary attraction to a woman. A woman's sexual market value from a man is visual. That's the primary attraction. Secondary attraction is she a good companion? Because we all know it's great, maybe short time to be with a woman who is a 10, who is really beautiful. But if she is a nag to be around, if she is not a good companion, if she is high maintenance, not even her good looks make it worthwhile to keep her around. So in the early part, 18 through, let's say, 30 of a woman's life, that is her peak time. Again, reverting back to the saying, the first half of life belongs to women, second half belongs to men. From age 18 to 30, maybe 35, this is when a woman is in her prime. And it has nothing to do with her skills to earn money. It has everything to do with how attractive is she? How pleasant is her personality? But then things take a whole different trajectory by the time she's gone past 35. We all know it and they know it, even if they won't express it verbally. But once they hit 35, doesn't matter if it's a Western culture or Eastern culture, women know that the bloom to their flower is starting to droop. Their beauty and hotness is beginning to fade. It's going to take more makeup. It's going to take more Zumba. It's going to take more dieting to try and cling to that attractiveness that they had in their 20s. And they know it. Now, the smart ones will say to themselves, well, I'm getting to be 28, I'm getting to be 30, I'm looking at the other women who are already 35. I don't want to wait till then when my SMV is lower to try and land a high-value man. As they approach 30 and 35, that window is getting more and more narrow. Their ability to attract a high-value man who has financial stability, their ability is beginning to drop. And the smart ones in their mid-20s will look for a man who is stable, a man who is mature, a man who has the character to not be a cheater. Because what good is it if she lands a financially stable man, but he's a cheater? If he's a cheater, she's in today and she could be out the door and replaced by some other woman if he's a cheater. So that doesn't give her any kind of stability or security at all. She needs a man that is not only financially stable, but she has to have reason to believe that he's not going to replace her because he has a cheater mindset. So when you put these two dynamics, these two arcs of life side by side, is it any wonder that financially stable men are highly valued in Southeast Asia, in the Philippines, where you have younger women who are in the prime bloom of life who say to themselves, now is the time for me to land a financially secure man who is not a cheater. Now, in the Philippines, I've talked to plenty of Filipinas, and when they think of younger men, even if those younger men are more handsome, the first thing they think of is younger, handsome man equals cheater. There is no security looking at a handsome younger man in their eyes. Now, when they look at an older, financially secure man, especially if he's from the West, there are a lot of presuppositions already in place. And again, it's not even built on reality, but what I keep hearing from Filipinas are things like, well, older foreigners are less likely to cheat. Now, we all know that's not true, but that is the perception that these women, younger women in Filipinas, work on. Another perception that they have in mind when they look at foreigner expats is, well, if they're rich enough to pay 50,000 pesos or more to fly to the Philippines, they are financially secure. It's not a question. And again, we all know that's not necessarily true. There are guys that come to the Philippines and they've only got maybe $600-700 a month to live on. Another perception from young Filipinas towards expats, older expats, is that in general, we have a higher respect for women. Now again, that's not necessarily true in every case, but when you stack these three things together and you put a Filipina in her 20s in front of an older expat who is financially secure, is it really any wonder that these two gravitate to each other? So just for S&G, as we wrap up here, let's look at the inverse of this. What about the older woman and the younger man? You don't really see as many age gap marriages in reverse with the older woman and a younger man. Does it happen? Yes. But as an overall trend, it doesn't happen to the same amount or degree as it does with older men with younger women. And I believe it's because, looking back again at a younger man, his desire is to make a mark in this world, to stand on his own 2 feet, to assert his manlyhood. Now, maybe for the short term, he'll take on an older sugar mama who's going to pay all the bills so that he can just be lazy and not work. But eventually, he's going to want to prove his manhood. He's going to want to stand on his own 2 feet, not be living constantly on an allowance that he has to keep waiting and asking for from his sugar mama. He's also, as a young man, going to be very interested in younger women. Meanwhile, the older woman that he's with, who probably kind of looked kind of hot when she was 40, 45, even 50, every year that passes by, he looks at her and he can see gravity taking its toll. He can see time taking its toll. She becomes less physically attractive with every passing year. And remember, men are visually oriented. At some point, the money's not worth it, and he will move on. But when it comes to an older man with a younger woman, it really is a meeting of a man in his prime matched up with a woman in her prime.